Okay, so in this chapter we're going to create our own procedural fence sections. And we're going to start by making, it's going to be a picket fence, and we'll start by setting up some pickets. Before I do any of that, I'm just going to do a little bit of a cleanup of my graph, just to sort of organize things a bit better. So just holding A and swiping down. Let's come and tighten these up a little bit. I'm also going to select all of these and come up here and click Create Netbox. And this will just let us sort of keep our graph tidy and move these around a bit easier. You can also hover over there and see there's a shortcut Shift O. Okay, so let's come up to an empty space up here and start building our picket. The first thing we're going to need to do is drop down a line. And this line is going to basically define our picket. So we need it to be going in the Z direction. And let's just make it too long right now. And then we're going to re-sample this. Let's just turn on a point display. And let's do maybe 0.2 for now. We'll come through in the next video, we'll build controls and set up proper parameters for all of this. This is all just going to be placeholders right now. We also need a box. And this is going to be our sort of fence post, like panel. So let's sort of make a size for this. There's something like that for now. Let's make sure we move it up. So let's make this slightly taller. Something like that. This will do fine for now. And we'll copy 2 points. Okay, so we need to adjust this amount. Let's also maybe just make this a lot thinner. Like that. This will work alright for now. Okay. And now the other thing we want to do is sort of give these a shape. So it's not just a boring straight flat across. So to do that, we are going to put down a box. Sorry, not a box. We want a line. I'm actually going to adjust these a little bit more. I still think they're a bit big, just so we can sort of get the a better idea of a bit more panels to work with. So let's make these half as small. Let's put these back down to 1 as well. Actually, let's quickly copy this parameter here, paste relative in there, and then just go divide by 2. And that means when we adjust this, it'll stay sitting on the grid. Cool. Now with this line, we also want it to be going in the same direction, and we want it to be the same length, but we'll make it slightly larger. And that means we'll also move it back just a little bit as well, just so there's a little bit of overlap with this. We need to make it even bigger because the panels are coming out from the edge of the line. Okay, that should work. We want to resample this. By about the same length as this one, or by the same length as this one, and let's also adjust this slightly. So the resample, the extra length is the same as the resample length. And that should make, see, all these points will now nicely line up in between these posts. Okay, now we're going to do a tiny bit of coding, just in an attribute wrangle. And what we want to type is, firstly, so we're going to use what's called a profile to control this, which is basically just a curve parameter. So the first thing we need to do, and if you've got absolutely no coding experience, don't worry about this. I'll also do it in FOPS, which is the node-based version of Vex, which is Houdini's coding language. But otherwise, feel free to just follow along. So we need a float, and a float is just a number that has decimal points. And this is our ramp position. And this is going to be equal to @ptnum, and that just means it's the point number of this. So it'll be 0, 1, 2, 3, etc. We need to times this by 1.0 because this is an integer, which is a number that has no decimals. So just by timesing it by 1.0, turn it into a float. Now we need to divide that by n points, which is just the total number of points in here. And it's looking for one input in here, which is basically the input of this node here. So 0, 1, 2, 3, and we want number 0. And we also need to put this endpoints in brackets, because we need to go -1, because computers start counting at 0. And then semicolon to end the coding line. Cool. Now we're going to do one more float, and this is going to be our y offset. And basically this is going to move this line up and going to form our curve that we make in our parameter we're about to create. And we're going to do 1 minus chramp, and this is just going to define a channel ramp. all of these are just normal like CH, and they'll be like CHV for vector, CHF for float. So the one we want to use is CHRamp. We need to give it a name, just in quotations. I'm just going to call it profile. And then it needs a position along the ramp, which is our ramp position that we just made. I also want to get the top bounds of this. So we need a vector, and a vector is just basically 3 values. Like this is a vector, this direction is a vector, scale is a vector, that sort of thing. So we'll get max bounds, and this is going to be equal to get bbox. And this is very similar to the expression we used. And in here we just want to put import 1, because we're going to, once we end this line, plug in this. So we'll look at the max bounds of this. And now in here we need to do p, which is the position of the point. You can see we're running over points. .y, so the y-axis. We're going to set that equal to max bounds .y plus y offset. And then if we just click this button here, it'll create parameters if it finds any in this code that don't already exist. Now we can, if we expand this out, you can see we can create this profile. As we adjust this, it will adjust our curve. So if you don't want to point, you just click and drag down these arrows. I'm going to shift select all of these and to change them to B-spline, so we get a nice smooth curve. And let's put this value at 1 and its position at 0.5. So it's a nice even curve. Actually, sorry, let's do 0 on that one. Actually, no. Yes, we will. Because we want it to be curving the other way. Sorry. And drag these ones up. Something like that. We can always come back and adjust that. That's the beauty of this. And now we want a poly extrude. Another thing we want to do here is come back up to this line. I'm just going to move it forward a little bit because we're going to extrude this out. So I'm just going to come to transform, extrude front, global, and make sure we're viewing that. Move it, extrude it back. So we want to make sure it's encompassing this fence post. Now Alt drag to copy that. And drag it down. Let's do about a value of 1. And now this is where we want to come in and adjust this profile a little bit more. So let's set both of these to 0.5. Okay. And let's also make sure on both of these, actually we only need to do it on this one, output back is turned on. Great. Now we're going to put down a Boolean. We want a Boolean subtract. And basically this will just minus this from this, and it'll give us this nice curve that we can control with this profile here.